Okay, you're good.
Late start, but we made it. Oh, that's the roll call.
Committee member Seeger,
Here.
committee member Nago,
Here.
committee member Dahl,
Yep.
committee member, I'm sorry, Kyleman.
Yeah.
Might want to put your sign down.
Sign out.
Oh, there we go.
Everybody's starting this will know who you are.
Yeah, they won't know if we have anybody there, whatever.
Okay, any additions or amendments to the agenda? No, we're on the agenda. Then next is the approval of minutes, but since we all just received the minutes, we can't approve them, is that right?
Sure, if you guys have read it, if you wanna read them, and then if you don't wanna read them, just
You can do
wait,
it, you can do it.
the next meeting. Yeah,
Did anybody read them?
I did, but I was here before you guys all, so
Through.
just move on it to the next,
Till next week,
till
yeah.
next week.
Okay.
That's the best thing.
And then did we ever get, the form for public comment?
We just got one and Kathy's gonna
Yeah,
Okay.
do that.
I didn't know there was a particular form for this meeting. so-
it's the same as regular council meeting.
All right, so it's my turn, that's your turn.
Okay, so Sydney Pruitt, City of Cascade Locks. So at the last meeting, you guys worked on that, methods of adoption. And then I went home and I read the council procedures. And the council procedures in 6.3 says, except in circumstances as provided in the city charter, a motion passes only if it receives 4 or more votes, regardless of the number of council members present. And then in the charter, it talks about a reading of an ordinance maybe by title. So to me, it kind of says to me that it should stipulate in our charter what passes, how many people it's required to pass an ordinance. So I don't know if that's something you guys want to hack out or just, I don't know, because,
No, it doesn't.
I found a good quote from the ORS.
okay, yeah, because
Yeah,
yeah, because it talks about how to adopt it, but it doesn't say how many is required in the charter, but then here it says, except in circumstances as provided in the charter, so, I don't know.
I would like to point out, Chair Conlon, that on section 19, it says vote required. Except as this charter provides otherwise, express concurrence of the majority, 4 members of the council is necessary to decide affirmatively any question before the council.
Okay, I just
So
thought,
I think that
you think that, just a,
because it's in here already,
Mm-hmm.
it takes four members, and it's always been that way, to pass anything. You have to have them. No matter what.
What were you reading from? Chart, okay.
Section.
I'm just saying, I think it's
Section
already in there. so-
It's in section 19, it's not in chapter 8.
And I guess I would also
So-
just like to add that council rules are. This is dominant, charter rules our council rules are,
yeah, so I wonder why if that even needs to be in the council procedure, so I mean, I just, it's just.
But please bring up.
Thank you, Tiffany. I feel like the constants of first sentences, except as this charter provides otherwise, so unless it specifically calls out something else, then it applies to the entire charter, right?
Right.
That's my.
Right,
understanding.
yes. Now, if it said something else indifferent in this section, then that would take over that, but we've gone through this and I don't remember seeing that, but that's okay.
I did, the quote I found was the unanimous approval of all members, at the meeting, a quorum being present required. Sorry, I'm being shorthand notes. You need the unanimous approval of all members, at the meeting, a quorum being present is required to adopt. So
Yeah.
the present,
We changed that word to present.
Yeah.
Correct, or?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So,
Okay,
It's my understanding that we are done with section 32, 1, 2, and 3, unless,
That's where I'm at. also.
unless somebody else has. Been 2 hours.
I know, all because of that one word.
Yeah,
The next one would be chapter 8, section 32-4.
Did we agree early on that we want to have a separate meeting just for that one?
I think our agreement was that we were gonna skip it
we skipped it
meeting
last meeting, that's why we approved,
because of time.
Right.
that's why we approved number 36.
Right.
Because we knew this one would take
Correct.
a lot
Yeah,
of time, so.
You want to get into this?
So we need to get into it. I can keep
we're all
putting it,
here.
we can't keep putting it off.
Okay.
So what,
Are you
what
ready
section
for-
are you looking at?
Yes.
Section, chapter 8, section 4, the fees, taxes and charges.
32 subsection
Yeah.
4.
Fees, taxes and charges. The big one,
Who wants to start?
That here.
well, I can start, I don't care. I like the way Bandon has theirs. I do feel that, it's hard for me to say this, but I do feel that council needs to have the authority to increase it based on the cost of our bond BPA. I also believe, and I don't know how we do this to keep it under control, but if we don't increase by a little bit more, we have no reserves, and that's where we're at now. Because in the last, well, 14 years that I know of, we increased just what BPA wanted. Well, our reserves are getting down to 0.
Okay, I'm not
And-
quite, I don't understand.
Okay.
that.
So if you increase what BPA says, 3%, just on it, then that's all that's gonna be increased, and that money goes to pay that bill. But what happens when you have other issues in the electric department that need attending to? But because you can't raise fees, taxes, or charges, you can't raise those, then our reserves are going down. We have to, the city has to be able to add a little to that. You know, like maybe 0.5%. I mean, I don't have the numbers, but we have to do something. Because if we don't, then the city will be bankrupt. Because they can't fix anything. They don't have any extra reserves to fix anything.
Right, I mean. Providing a free service, from, as far as the city's concerned, basically is what it is, right?
It's
Like,
what,
they're not making any money on providing the service and all that other stuff. is that what
no,
you're
that's
saying?
correct. They're not making anything on it. They're just covering the costs of the electric part. And it does take man hours and inventory and all that to be able to keep our wires, our poles,
Yeah.
and all of that up. Well, if we don't help them with that, if there's nothing there to say this money goes to the reserves for the electric, then one of these days, we aren't gonna be able to do any of this.
Right.
And I just wanna point out that the bridge down there at the creek, if we had any kind of reserves, we could have maybe covered that, at least half of it. But now, we're paying 1.6 million, where if we could have covered that, it would only been $1 million. Now we're putting out $600,000 more. So the reserves become a very important part of keeping the city going and keeping your infrastructure going. If you don't have it, your infrastructure is gonna go down, and the city will always be in debt because we don't have reserves. My opinion.
So some of the things that can happen are like the fridge, but also just like this last winter when we had the big freeze and the ice storm, a lot of extra maintenance is being
Yes.
done on the line.
Mhm.
And the city doesn't have that fund to cover those costs. So they just come out of the general fund.
No, they come out of Jordan, they come out of contracted services,
Correct, yes.
which is where we have our contracted electric company, okay? And if something happens that, we've overextended that because of an unforeseen circumstance, then you do a, resolution to move that money, move reserve money to cover that cost.
I see.
If you don't have reserve money, you can't cover the cost. And if you can't make your budget balance, your financial balance, then you would be in violation of Oregon state law. So you've got to be able to give them some latitude. Now, the latitude, is up for debate, as far as I'm concerned. How much latitude do you give them? I mean, what's the verbiage to say? What is the verbiage gonna be?
Oh, right, because you do want to keep it in check.
You wanna keep it in check because, I think you wanna keep it in check. I don't know if you want to, if council says, well, let's increase it 5%, 3% goes here, 2% goes into the reserves. Or maybe they're gonna go 5 and 5. Who's to say how much they're gonna take? And I don't know how to, and I don't know if we want to control that. Or is that control part of the citizens of Cascade Locks to come up to council and say, no way, I don't know.
I remember Gary saying something. When he was here and he spoke, he mentioned something about. Percentage of the dollar amount
Mhm.
of. The dollar amount and increase as opposed to like. The whole dollar amount, so if their Bonneville raises their rates by 3%, you want a percentage. You wanna add a percentage of that
Mhm.
3%, not the overall.
I think that's correct. I have to put my numbers together, but I think that's, Jordan would be better off to answer that part, but. I just think we need to really look at this and say, if we're gonna let council do, the fees based on the banded one, which I like what they say
In the.
in,
48.
in their section 48. And 49, yes.
Where they go through what they.
And honestly, on SDC charges, copy fees, filing fees, any kind of those fees, and Lord knows we have a lot of them. We can't, I don't think we should dictate what management can increase. They're the ones that are dealing with the cost of office supplies and the cost of all of this stuff. That if copies need to be raised 5 cents, then management should be able to raise that 5 cents.
Right.
And I think this verbiage in our charter is a little bit, too much.
No strict.
Yes,
And too vague,
yes,
because it can be applied, it's subject to interpretation, I think. What is the rate, what's the fee?
it is subject to interpretation,
Um,
and as we know, they can raise the rates.
We'll call it a rate.
I'll call it a rate, because rate is not in here.
Right.
The word rate is not in there.
So Jordan, how does that negatively affect your job? Or just the
By
office in general?
Limiting rates?
You said something one time at one of the meetings, I wanna say it was a city council meeting, about how. Something similar to what Mary Ann said, that every time you need to raise the price of paper, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if we have to wait to make sure
the way it's written is essentially means you have to do it at every general election, not every 4 years, and you can't wait 4 years to raise rates or fees.
Not at the rate things are.
No, gosh, no. And then in terms of just matching BPA plus a little, I don't think that's taking into account increased salaries, increased costs of supplies, all that other stuff.
No, it's not. That's why I said there's gotta be some different language.
Well, if it doesn't account for rates, what's the point? I mean, if rates aren't, if this isn't rates, then what's the point?
Well, yeah, the rate has to account for the purchase of power,
I'm
plus the
just saying,
personnel, plus
if
the
this
supplies,
doesn't pertain to the rate, then why are we having the,
adding it in there.
yes, why is it in there and why are you having a discussion?
Because we want to change this and not have to go to the voters
Every single.
every time.
Okay, but you're talking about rates, which doesn't apply.
I know it doesn't, but it's vague in here. It is. I mean, we've already went to the attorney once to say, does rates, comply? Well, I think that, that's vague, and I just think we need to clean this up and make it easier to understand and let the council, I hate saying that, doing, the rates and the fees and the charges. Because, I mean, honestly, if you wanted to raise copy fees, you would prove to them what our copies cost. And then council would say, okay, let's raise it to 15 cents a copy. Once you prove that you've got paper, toner, personal time, lease the machine, so you put all that in there, gives them an idea, and they can choose what they wanna do, but don't let them just pick a number out of the air. I mean, and I don't know, I just think we need to reevaluate this, so that our reserves are getting more money.
Bernard,
So I want to just respond to Kathy's comment. If I'm hearing you right, Kathy, if we adopted the Bandon,
I don't know what Bandon said.
okay, I'll read you Bandon.
Okay.
I just.
I think we have it online.
It's up on.
Oh, it's up on the screen, yeah.
So just really go to that sentence that says, the city council retains authority. See that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Read that sentence, Kathy.
The city council retains authority to increase electric utility rates to cover the cost of rate increases charged to the city of Bandon by blah, 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 or other like electric providers, and to raise taxes as allowed by the Oregon Constitution.
Which we don't have taxes, it is.
So that would not be in.
Well, I mean, in theory, you could raise gas taxes.
Who could?
The city of Cascade Locks. The river did it.
Prepared food tax, all that fun
So
stuff.
yeah, those are, city of Ashland has a farm tax, exactly. So this is saying the Constitution allows it, a gas tax, a food tax, then council can do that, you know? All right, so what I wanna say to Kathy's comment, if I hear you right, Kathy, if I'm hearing Mary Ann right, when we say we want to try to put sideboards on council's authority regarding rates over electricity, so they can keep the reserves healthy, et cetera, et cetera. What Kathy's saying, well, we don't need to do that anyway, because we've proven, at least apparently previous city attorneys, et cetera, said you don't need, that's not subject to voter approval, end of story, if I hear you right.
That's
So
correct.
that shouldn't be there, just straight out of the, if I'm hearing you. Okay,
so you're saying
So-
it shouldn't be an exception since it doesn't even apply in the first
Exactly.
place?
that's right,
But citizens are upset because the increase in the cost, and they feel that this and what the attorney has said is wrong.
okay,
Okay, so why not, so that everybody understands it, make it more clearer, is all I'm saying.
okay,
And in order to do that, you basically take this out and do what Bandon does, allowing council to raise the power, and if we need water and sewer, you're allowing them to do the utilities. Is basically what you're allowing them to do. This is what's stopping them from doing it.
What's stopping them?
Well, I know the attorney said rates is fine, I get that. But I'm saying you haven't raised water for a while. Because it's a rate, and people in town don't understand this versus a rate. And if you make it more clear to the people in town, they're gonna be a lot happier than what they are right now.
Okay, I know I'm not a committee member.
we have always been open to all and helpful.
Yeah, we are.
But this, and I know that it's been brought up, but what this, even in Bandon where it says, no new taxes, fees or charges, I want you guys to know that all the new houses that we have let somebody from out of town build and pay 2008 SDC fees.
Lakeland goes to.
So finish your thought, keep going. 2008,
That has
that's
cost.
that's the
SDC.
the last time they were effective, they were existed. So they're at the 2008 rate, even though it's
Correct.
2024.
And so all these houses were built without us charging the
The proper.
rates.
Okay.
And if you go on, it covers that.
Okay, and anyway, I just want to add that because of that, all of us citizens in Cascade Locks are paying loan fees, which could have possibly been less had these out-of-town people building houses in our city paid the fees that they should have paid, but this tied our hands.
The way that it's written now. The way that it's written now, we want to reverse that way.
Covers those.
Right. We see this section as a major problem for the city. For the citizens, there's a lot of divisiveness over this one measure. Some people feel like the reason this measure was passed, because there was concern about backroom deals and, not corruption, but people, you know,
Color transparency.
yeah, there was a lack of transparency. And so anytime, like, we may have the right to increase electric rates under state statutes, but when it happens, I think it re-triggers that suspicion
Right.
that the council is acting behind the backs of the people that they're supposed to represent.
Because people come back and they look at this and they're like,
Right.
this says you're not supposed to do
Right,
it, because
exactly.
they don't fully understand what's being said.
So,
Tiffany?
Laura.
so what we're trying to do, I think, is clarify it less for the council than for the citizens who object to it or who misinterpret or aren't as familiar with the statutes.
Okay, well, part of the consternation though is that at times it is applied this way and at times it's applied this way. For example, this new trash fee with these new containers, that was not, it was classified as a rate increase.
Right.
That was a completely new fee added to our feeing system of $4 a month for the next 8 years.
$4 a billing cycle.
It's not a city fee.
But it was initiated by the council requiring that we have that. So that's where the consternation comes in. The council can just arbitrarily make decisions that cause us all to have to pay.
Right.
At another fee in addition to what we're already paying. I completely understand your point, but at the same time, when the council makes these decisions, then, and the citizens have to pay for it, that's where the consternation comes in, especially when you see no new fees or taxes, and we just had added another $4 fee to our bills because of what the council did. So maybe put the word incur, I don't know, I don't know what the, and then in addition, if you're gonna go down the banding thing, I think it should state clearly SDCs, but we also have to add cemetery fees because we also have our own cemetery, so that's something.
Well,
else.
there's all those fees and honestly, I don't know how we can list all those fees.
Right.
So to me, you have to have some language that says they can increase those fees, because we gotta increase SDCs, we gotta increase cemetery.
Would those fall under like operating costs? There's gotta be an umbrella term that fits all of that, right?
Well, those are, the cemetery is operating fees, I mean,
Those, those go back to the argument of optional. Nobody's making you be buried in Cascade Locks. Nobody's making you bury your whoever it is here. Nobody's making you build a house in Cascade Locks. Nobody's making you have a copy, make copies of it. They are all optional. The only thing not optional are taxes and the fees directly applied to your utility bill. Everything else is optional.
it's optional, yes, but you're not charging enough because the city's taking it in shorts.
Yes, so why are we not giving council the ability to do their job? If you don't like it, vote them out.
They will be eventually, but
Okay, so, but just, I wanna do one quick follow-up, then I wanna kind of give you my take on this. So, you're saying in Bandon, they can raise SDCs, is that what I understood?
they can raise all of them.
All of it, yeah.
They have,
As long as they can cover the cost of providing a service.
they revoked, the other stuff.
Okay, okay.
Limits on sewer rates established
I
by
think, okay.
consent of
I got it,
voters.
I got it, okay,
They revoked all of their last
Okay.
things.
All right.
Like we're trying to do.
okay. So, I'm just gonna give you my 2 cents on this. The first thing is that if I could be, if I could convince you all of what we should do, I would propose we eliminate this paragraph. And the reason I say that is because it is too burdensome to try to run a city. And if you remember, when we just glanced at this conversation, I asked the city administrator, how many fees do we have? Like hundreds.
We have
okay?
hundreds of
The
fees.
idea that voters should be weighing in on every fee the city oversees, to me, is just, it's ridiculous. And I think that it was an error in, I would argue, just, frustration or what have you, that led to them to write the language they did, and even though it got passed. Okay, so now, if we can't achieve let me say one other thing. The reason that like we passed a water increase, we have that $20 fee on our bill, that we've done electrical. The reason we've done that is that the city attorney reviewed, and it's not just the city attorney, we read this in the model LOC ordinance, that items of governance that are administrative in nature are not subject to voter approval or voter, purview. It is the authority of the administration and the council to manage items that are administrative in nature. Those things, fees, rates, are administrative in nature, and that's what LOC says, and that's what our attorney has said. So I think there's a strong argument to say that this thing was passed, but if I wanted to sue the city to say, this violates the state constitution, the city attorney and LOC would say I would win. I would overturn it. Okay, so to me, there's a lot of precedence to say that this language shouldn't be in the first place. Okay, now, having said that, and having lived through this, I was a city administrator of this thing, and I got, my chest beat by a bunch of angry citizens, who were unhappy about the construction of the fire station and the capital needs that we were proposing, the public safety charge, which eventually got passed. And they wanted to prevent all of it. They wanted to prevent it, they wanted to prevent us to have the financial flexibility to complete the construction of that project. So I understand there's a lot of emotion and, and real resonance. There's a lot of this resonates with a lot of citizens, and that they want this authority to oversee all these things, okay? So if I can't convince this group a wholesale removal of this language, what I would try to find as middle ground is something to the effect that I call it user fees. He said optional. All user fees should not be subject to citizen, approval. So a user fee, if I'm getting a building permit, that's a user to me, if I'm making copies, I'm using that fee. I should pay the cost of those services that the city is distributing to help me, So I shouldn't force the public to subsidize cheap copies or cheap SDCs because we're stuck at this thing that we can't get the voters to approve. How we identify which fees are subject to voter approval and which are not, is again, would require some additional review, but at a minimum, I would like user fees to be pulled out of subject to voter approval. And, if you think about it, if the LOC is right and our city attorney is right, rates should be removed out of this as well. And it leaves like the gas tax. If we want to do a gas tax, then by gosh, the voters should approve that. If we want to do a food tax, voters should approve them. Those types of taxes should be approved by the citizens.
What about property tax? Increases in property.
I don't know,
That has to go before the public.
I don't think we can do that.
We can't do
Like,
that.
we can do a levy, a
Do
special
a levy.
levy.
Yeah.
And the state constitution already says that it has to go to the voters. You can't do that. Council
No,
can't do that.
they have to do a levy.
So there are some things that are clearly, I think, within the purview of voter approval, but the rest of it, if I had my dithers, we would send it back to council. And as someone just mentioned, if you don't like the way council is running the city, then that's what elections are for. And council can raise a fee, and then you could say, I'm only gonna vote for you is if you lower that fee. And every voter can either say yay or nay to that, So that's what I would like the authority to be redistributed, per this charter.
Tiffany.
So can I ask you some questions, Bernard? So, could elective user fees be, can the word elective be put in there? Because what about trash? Is that a user fee or is that?
That's not our fee.
But it's a requirement of the city, it's the requirement of the council to have trash service. It's a requirement of this.
Well, it's not a city fee, so I don't know how you could explain that in writing to make that work, because it's not a city fee. That would be like telephone or anything else that we have no control over that.
But the city doesn't mandate that we have a telephone. The city does mandate that we have trash service.
Well, imagine what it would be like if we.
No, I get that, and I'm glad you're here to counter the conversation, but
Okay, so my response to that is very gray. I would like to see a legal analysis that says, if a city mandates a service that an external party provides, does that give them the authority to set those rates and fees that third party provides? I don't think it does, but I think it's a fair question.
because now.
Because we are,
because now
we're not the only city that does that. Many
Right, right.
cities require trash service.
Because now we're talking yard debris carts, which are gonna cost $20 more a month, and I certainly didn't wanna pay the $4 more a month, and I certainly don't wanna pay $20 more a month. So what if the city wants to mandate that we have, because we're having issues with our area where we drop off our yard debris. So what if they decide, well, it is no longer the city's responsibility, and it's now the citizens, so we're going to mandate that you're required to do that, and it'll be a $20. So that's, I mean, this,
Yeah,
that's the one area I think that, and then also,
yeah.
in your user fees, so is the fire EMS, is that a levy or is that what is
That's
that?
voted by the people.
But was that a levy or is that, what is?
It's a fee.
It's a ballot, it was a
It's a
ballot.
ballot.
Registered fee, so it's not, so that's not, again, that That's
And
not,
there's-
that's not an elective.
There's
user.
a time limit on
Yeah, yeah,
that
which
fee.
is this year, which we
Is
will
it
be,
this year?
we will be voting on it.
Oh, okay, I didn't write it.
Is that is?
Yes, we will.
Yes, so in addition to the one from the sheriff's contract and the sheriff's one, so the 911 one, whatever.
I think Bernard makes a good point, as well as you do, when we have a third party, is that something that a third party provider for a service that you're required by the city to have? Can our attorney look into that? Because I know that in Portland, service areas are contracted out. It's not like we can decide we're gonna get a different garbage hauler.
Right,
We're under contract with a very specific hauler that's determined by the state or by the county.
Can you choose your garbage provider in Gresham?
You cannot,
You can.
Cannot put anywhere.
but let me just add to that. The city negotiates rates with the haulers like every 5 years. I think they extend it to 7 years.
Yeah.
And it's on a ladder, you know, there's a small increase built in, but, they very much are, they're very much the, you know, not to get too technical, but the only way that haulers can do their business, they have to use city right of way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They would not be able to conduct business if they weren't using city streets.
That's correct.
Okay, so we have a lot of authority to oversee them and, and weigh in on what they're charging our customers. And so what Gresham would do every 5 to 7 years, the haulers would have to come in and show us their books, you know?
Mm.
We're giving them, quote, a monopoly to operate. It's very similar to how utilities operate. Like, you can't, if you're an investor-owned utility in Oregon, you can't raise your rates willy-nilly. You have to go and stand in front of the Oregon, like, electric utility board or whatever, and they will approve those rates or not approve, you know? And you have to show them that they're justified.
Mhm.
So there was very much a process with trash in Gresham. And, you know, I don't think it's out of our purview to have a requirement. And if I remember, they would show us some numbers
They
on,
always-
when they would want to do a rate increase with us,
Mhm.
they would sit there and show us spreadsheets on what their costs were, fixed, variable, all those things, like a good business does, you know? And have to justify any change in rate, you know? So, anyway, it's messy. To your point, you know, having that process now go to the voters, I'm not sure if that works. I mean, again, I would like to have an attorney weigh in on it, you know? We didn't have that problem because this thing came later, but anyway.
And it's really not a charter issue, which is what we're dealing with. This would be, because as you pointed out, Kathy, that it's not a fee that we set. The city
No.
sets.
The garbage company comes in here, I don't know how many times the contract is good, is annually. Yeah, they come in here and say, this is what our cost is, this is what we need, and council approves it. I mean, that's the way it's been that I know of, because if we don't, then we could go get another garbage company, and they might charge more.
But it didn't work.
but with the new cans, they did not come
No.
and make that, they did not come and make that presentation. The council went to them
Them.
and requested it.
That's correct, they did.
So,
I mean, I see.
Based on public request.
Then the people that showed up for the city council meetings, that public,
is it okay if I just sit here and you want me to get them to sit right?
just keep raising your hand.
I don't want to overstep my boundaries.
So in that case, is council able to do that kind of stuff? Is that their
Jurisdiction.
jurisdiction to do, is go to the garbage company, just as an example, and say, what's gonna be the rate? And then they decide, oh yeah, we can do that. Well, no, you can't, because the citizens haven't, that affects them, so I don't know.
It's not our rate there. I mean, you'll see.
I understand it's not our rate, but the way council did it just seemed a little odd, because they didn't come to us and say, well, if you go with cans, everybody gets cans, this will be your rate. I mean, it
I
just
think we
was,
should review some minutes and see how it went down.
I was
Well,
here.
Council says that Hood River Garbage approached them, Hood River Garbage says that they were approached by council.
Yeah,
That's
Well,
what
I
the
think you
minutes
should
say.
look in minutes.
That's what the videos say.
but anyway, what are we gonna do with number 4?
Bernard is saying we should get rid of it.
Yeah, well, one idea we could do is we provide council 2 options, or maybe 3. Option 1, remove it. Option 2, this user fee, some kind of, middle ground. And option 3 is a little tweak like Bandit,
Kathy, before this went in, before this all happened in 2008, the city could do raise fees to, accommodate the cost, is that correct?
There was no issue until, like Bernard said, and again, you can go look at minutes if you don't
I know,
believe it. Some citizens, a few of them, got a little upset.
yes, I know.
Because Bernard came in at a messy time when the community was divided. Some wanted a new fire station and some thought the one we had was absolutely fine. All the research was done. Bernard's a mega researcher, was presented to council. Citizens were upset. They didn't want to make the loans. They didn't want to spend the money to build a fire station that they didn't think, some of the citizens didn't think that we needed. And I believe also at that same maybe time or close by, there was, a rate increase, electric rate increase coming. And people were just, split, the community was split. And so some of these people decided, well, we can
stop the city from
we
doing all
can
this.
take care of business here, and this is what they did, and I'm just telling you, working here for 29 years, there was never an issue before
I
that,
know it wasn't.
never, ever an issue with rates, fees, anything before this, and this has definitely cost all of us.
Mhm.
This right here has cost all of us.
Well, and there was also the issue of the loan from the electrical department to, based on what
The fire station,
the fire station was supposedly going to sell for, which was very overpriced. And, there was just a lot of moving around, and I think it was also at the same time as Cascade Meadows, which there was a lot of consternation with that at the same time, so
yes, there was.
there was
There was a whole lot of stuff
bunch
going
of stuff.
on.
And, yeah, so it wasn't just, I think it was just like a domino.
Yeah,
effect.
frustrations were high,
It was-
no doubt about
Yeah, so.
And I mean, can I just say as a citizen, I mean, if you're paying attention and you're coming to the meetings and you're watching the meetings, the packet is out a week ahead of time, go to budget, pay attention to the council meetings, and if there's something that you think is not being done right, you come as a citizen and let council know. This is costing, you think that, some people may think this tied the city's hands, it did,
It did.
but I'm telling you, it cost us all. So if you wanna keep those kinds of things going, then I guess the citizens can decide.
I just don't think I just think it needs to go, like Bernard says. I just don't know how to, and I'm sorry I have to say this, I don't know how to control council. They're spending money like it's going out of style. So what guarantee do we have that they're not gonna take this and say, oh, we need to increase 5%? I mean, what,
Increase what?
increase the rates?
They can. You're not gonna.
They can
stop
do that
them.
with regardless. Unless you wanna sue them, unless somebody wants to get
Nobody
together.
has the money to sue them.
Well, that's the challenge, I agree.
I'm
Most people don't
just
wanna do
saying,
that.
you can't say rate because you can't stop them with rate.
You can try, but right now, like I said, LOC and our attorney would, their prediction is that you would not win. That the state constitution considers this administrative in nature and therefore you lose. It's not subject to.
Okay, so rates are not part of this. Tell me, Jordan, how, if we get this out of here, how are we gonna get money into reserves? What's gonna be the proposal to get money into reserves?
Probably increase property tax.
Which would have to go before, which has to go before the public.
Yeah, that already has to, so why are you trying to regulate it in here?
I'm not trying to
I mean-
regulate it.
If it was in here,
All right, so can I ask you a question? When you say reserve, I thought you were talking about electric reserve. You're
All
talking
the
about
reserves.
General fund, okay.
All the reserves are
Okay.
taking a hit
Yeah, I got
because we have no money
Right.
put back.
it. Yeah, yeah.
So what was put back in 2008 is all gone. Because we haven't been able to
Got
get
it.
that extra
Yeah.
money.
I know. I mean, just a little anecdote, so I argue with people on, social media all the time about EVs, right? And one of the arguments I make, it's like, you know what? For me to drive 1,000 miles, when I charge at my house, it costs me $28. I have a friend who drives a Subaru, it costs her $200.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Now, they're going, really? How's that possible? It's like, well, my electricity is 0.0779 cents a kilowatt hour. And they're like, really? Holy, how's it so cheap? It's like, well, it's not supposed to be that cheap. I don't say that, but that's what we all know, It should be more expensive. Most electric utilities are charging more per kilowatt hour to keep their electric utility running properly and reserves properly funded
Exactly
and
right.
all that stuff, So, but let me try to answer the question that maybe Jordan was asked. I'll tell you how I would answer that question. Mary Ann, the way you ensure reserves are properly funded is for an electric utility, you have a rate study. That rate study lays out all your fixed and forecasted variable costs. And then you set rates to meet those and ensure all those needs are met. That's how any utility in America operates.
And we've done a rate study. We do rate
But
studies
we
many
didn't, but we
times.
we adjust the rates to
No.
meet those obligations. Then that's your answer,
Did you adjust the rates to meet our obligations?
We just did a rate study and we followed the recommendations of the rate study. We just did it in last summer,
Yeah,
July.
just a little while ago.
September, we just did it. Everybody got an increase October 1.
Then where's all the money going? I mean,
Well, it just got happened.
I know, but
The revenue has to.
previous years too. I mean, come on, I was the finance officer. I know how much money we had in reserves.
well, do you remember when EPA did 11% increase and council voted to the city will? eat it?
Yeah, eat it, yes.
There you go.
That's what I mean. Yes, the city voted to eat it.
Well, there's your answer. That's what happened.
That will deplete reserves. As one factoid, and Mary Ann, what drives the expenditures in every given year, any given multiple years are all these things.
Oh, I know they are.
Price of gas goes up, or
I know
labor,
that.
it's
I know
like,
that.
so, there's never one thing,
Oh, I know that.
But if you're not properly, if your rate structures are not properly set up, then yes, you will find a decline, it's basic math, so. I would like to return the authority back to council. And again, we have elections and we have recurring meetings, budget committee, council meetings, in which when citizens can weigh in if they feel like council is being, wasteful with the money that we use to fund our utilities as ratepayers. We have every right to do that.
Well, and speaking to that, within the statutes, I know that the council, in taking the oath, assumes fiduciary responsibility as public servant. And that is to act in the best interest of the community, and they're not accountable for that.
That's right.
But is there anything in the statutes beyond a recall election that creates a check and balance for the council to follow? I don't know the statutes well. In terms of rate increases or in terms of how they spend, public money.
The budget process.
Which was pointed out that is just a recommendation, and city council have to adhere to it. That's what you said last meeting.
It's just a guide.
Yeah, the guy, I can't predict every single penny that's gonna come in and out of the city.
Right, so it's not a checks and balances, it's a
Yeah,
recommendation.
like, it's gotta be close.
I mean, yeah, but to me, it can serve as a checks and balance because it requires half the committee just to be regular citizens, they're not council members. And if those guys are gonna come to these meetings and argue about the budget, and council's gonna go, screw you, we're not doing anything you said, like I said, that's going to have a voter impact, you know, if a council is so callous to ignore the conversations and the guidance and the deliberations done by these fellow citizens, you know, that usually doesn't end well, you know, so.
It's a breach of their public oath to serve the people and to listen to the people.
Yes, I think that's a fair comment to make, you know? So you got that and you've got elections every 2 years.
So you're saying, just to sort of go back, we make 3 different recommendations to the council, possibly.
That is one option.
Eliminating it all together and returning all authority to them. And then some intermediate one, and then just mild tweaks.
That would be my proposal, and, you know, to maybe make it easier for council. If this decision is not comfortable with it, we do a private like polling, and we rank the 3 privately, so no one knows how we vote. And then council can see that when they're deliberating on what they put in the final version that goes before the voters.
Private in the committee or private in the?
No, private in the committee.
But also, since we're having a town hall, we could also ask people,
I would love to do that, yes, I totally agree.
ask them to rank the 3 as well.
Yes, absolutely.
And then my other thing is, speaking to your concern about building our reserves and your concern about third party, the council, you know, negotiating and working, you know, if you're gonna manage it, we have garbage service, then like maybe think about how you're gonna negotiate for that. Are these other recommendations we can make to the council? These have come up, we're asking you to please look at these and come up with solutions for these concerns about that. Is that something we can recommend?
I believe we are the solution makers, if I understand it right. Like, we propose something, and again, it's recommendation.
Recommendation will be.
They can change it regardless.
Yeah.
I think including a recommendation that the council visit this issue with third-party rates. And like what happened this last time with, get cans or whatever, that's something that is, I've heard a lot of people complain about it. And then I don't know what to do for the reserve. So we consider it critical.
Yes.
We do, as the committee, clearly consider.
I do, yes, I'm only speaking for myself.
We are one very bad storm from being bankrupt.
So that should be in our recommendations, the thing.
Well, to me, if you return authority back to council to set the rates and charges that are collected by the electric utility without any obstruction by this charter, then that in itself is a recommendation to say, look, follow the rate studies conducted by professionals and implement them, so we have a fiscally sound electric utility. You know, I mean,
So we're
that
having.
is the guidance. When you're returning that, then you're just like, okay, council, now govern like you want to ensure all our utilities are fiscally sound for the long term, not just the short term.
assuming the city's already on a shoestring budget, is that pretty accurate? Like, there's probably not much fat to trim off of. What we're
We haven't
spending.
gone through the budget
That's
process.
There's an opening, you should apply.
On the committee, yeah.
It's
Yes, I'm on that. It's only like 3 meetings, it's not that hard, and you learn a lot.
That's not so
So,
bad, 3
yeah.
meetings I might be able to commit
And I
to.
can give you a jump start.
Yeah, there is a very large piece of fat to pick cut, and that's our paramedic service. We are not required to provide it. That would save the city $300,000 right there. Nobody wants to let that go.
I mean, we don't have, I don't have hardly any police presence as far as emergency response goes, so that's gonna be a tough one, but.
20 minutes, get a paramedic.
I was reading that issue. I also knew about it.
Oh, the days, oh, the good old days.
I mean, that decade was just.
Boy, it was,
living.
that was a wild ride.
Living.
So I'm hearing tentative support to cut that paragraph.
That's one
I
remedy.
think it should be cut.
So,
I prefer the word remove.
Okay, remove.
Remove, yes.
so one recommendation is to remove.
Yeah, I mean, Bernard, I think it's okay if you wanna do these options, but I just think you should remove it.
Okay, well, I didn't know where the committee was gonna,
I mean, that's mine,
Settle on
so
that.
I don't know what everybody else.
I'm,
It requires all of you to approve.
Yeah,
I'm perfectly comfortable with remove and not a secondary option. But I wanted to kind of open the door to say, if people aren't comfortable with that, then let's find some middle ground as another option, so. I don't know where the two of you are.
I just don't know what your second and third option would be,
Right.
so.
I would like to
More like
find some
that.
middle ground.
A very wordy charter.
Like,
That's
like
what I
that,
think.
with
It's
all the
pretty-
list of fees.
Pretty slim as it is, I think we
Yeah.
could add some more words in there.
Uh-huh.
The list of fees that that they're
Well,
allowed.
the city has, like I said, 100 fees.
Right.
Over that,
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of fees.
Yeah, I don't know.
when you think about everything, yeah.
Is there a way to say, if you want to raise rates or fees or anything else, then the city has to look at their budget and find ways for them to be able to save some money?
That's administrative.
Mhm.
Would the middle ground be to remove everything and make it clear that what's in the statute, that the
Yeah.
voters have to do a vote
Yeah.
on any taxing.
Right, so maybe, here, I just thought, here's a thought for you. Any fee not administrative in nature is subject to voter approval. If you did that, then all that stuff would be, subject to council purview. And anything that's not in that, again, I don't know, we might create a can of worms, like, that's administrative, that's not administrative.
Then
How are you
the
gonna-
same kind of arguments that we have now?
That's the problem with that. That's the problem with any language on this, is that you have people arguing about whether
What's
council
administrative,
authority.
what's-
If you go back to your term of user fee,
Yes,
I mean, so the backflow fee, the water fees, the EMS fees on your utility bill, those are forced upon everybody equally.
Right.
Those would require a vote. All the other stuff that is a user
Elected.
fee is controlled by council.
What Tiffany's word, elected user fee, an elected, like sanitary or.
Yeah,
yeah, but it is, look, I will continue to remark, water, electric, those, even though they're not quote user fees or mandatory, charges to be a resident of the city, they are administrative in nature.
yes, no, I'm not talking about rates, yeah. We're talking about the fees, not rates, the fees on your utility bill.
So are you talking like?
So which ones?
fees?
Not the basics, no.
Cause that's considered part of the rate.
That's part of the rate, no, I'm talking the EMS fee,
Oh, okay.
the $20 for the wastewater plant, the $15 for the
Sewer
water,
bond.
sewer bond, all of that stuff.
Yeah, see that, yeah, again, that makes me nervous, makes me very nervous.
Yeah,
It would have to
it's
be
slippery, yeah.
I mean, if we say, we're gonna reject that $20 sewer fee, I mean, my God, the sewer utility will go bankrupt. They can't do that.
That's true.
Can't do that.
And you create a mess, so.
So a long time ago, I thought, why can't it just say costs related to providing services? I mean, the city can't be underwater because the rates go up and the citizens, nobody wants to vote for themselves higher rates. Nobody wants to vote for themselves alone that they may or may not think that we need, like the 2 sewer loans, I mean, the two for us since we've
Right.
lived here. Since we've lived here,
Mhm.
so, because, the last sewer had its issues because it was built too big and wasn't used enough, and so now we have to go into a second loan for a second sewer system to work,
Upgrade or,
to
yeah.
work
It's
right.
my understanding that that was put to a vote and the people approved it. Am I thinking of something else?
No, I think that was,
Something else.
no, I don't think
Okay.
so. Because I don't think that was.
Well, I wasn't here for.
Okay, so finish your thought there.
The
So
thought was that if it's. You can't ask the citizens to vote for rate increases because those are, you can't ask the city to pay. For rates that the citizens won't vote for themselves. I mean, like, electric rates go up. We take it to the citizens say no, then the city has to eat it, that's not a good.
That's not-
yeah, you will
that's not-
bankrupt your
That's not a
utility.
good
That's what will happen.
So, if it said something to the effect of. Services provided. Just utilities provided. I don't know, it should have some sort of verbiage like that.
What the utilities provided are not subject to voter approval, is that what you want
Yeah,
to say?
because, are subject to administrative rule, because. We have to pay our bills.
Right.
Everybody has to pay their bills.
How does that differ from everything not administrative in nature?
Isn't everything we do is service provided?
Yes,
You serve the city.
That's why we're here.
everything we do is service provided, copies, faxes, whatever.
But those, you don't have, not everybody has to use those, not, like he said, not everybody,
So if they don't want to, that's fine, but they gotta cover their costs and expenses.
right?
Those are like opt-in services.
That's true, you don't have to, go find somebody else and good luck.
They're elected.
That's like, you don't bridge on that. You don't like the toll.
Yeah.
Take another bridge.
So, do all 4 of you, or all 4 of you for that? Cause it requires all of your guys' votes in order for that
This
to
is
be.
a quorum.
We're looking at, so I'm confused. We have one recommendation, which is to remove. Is there a question to that? Is one of our recommendations.
Bernard and I are equally agreeable, but I don't know you two.
I would agree to including it as a recommendation.
It seems like we've got a second wind on trying to find a middle ground.
I think it's the second recommendation, like alternate. Cause I think you're right. I think when we go to a town hall meeting, I think people are gonna show up who are gonna want something other than having it removed entirely. And I'd like them to be able to look at something and get their feedback at least.
Because this was put here because the people wanted it.
Correct.
And now
Only
it's
certain
causing,
people wanted
and
it,
now it's
and
causing
then,
division because people look at it and say, but the charter says this, how can the city do that since the
Right.
charter says this? And all of those people that say that are the people that feel more comfortable with that in our charter.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I would argue that, Cascade Locks has changed a lot since 2008. There's a
Yeah.
lot of new people here. And I don't know if their passions are as, intense on this conversation as the folks who led the charter, who were champions for this. I know some of them might be, because she's still here, you know.
I wasn't
But-
part, I wasn't part of that, but.
Oh, I didn't know if you were, okay. Anyway,
That was Gary and,
And Sandra, and I think that the Hates were into it as well, right?
sure.
No? Anyway, so I feel like the town has changed, but I don't know what their perspective on these conversations are, and these policies.
So I think we would find out at a town hall.
We would have hopefully a good idea,
If we
exactly.
had two different recommendations and see how people feel about each one. We could at least take that information to the council.
I think if we were to have a town hall meeting, we would have to give them
Options?
options and. I mean, looking at it on its face, at face value. I mean, how do you explain to everybody and have them understand that?
I'm happy to take a stab.
It's-
I'm happy to take a stab.
The city's
As
got.
a member of the charter committee. Now, but
No, but that it's administration and that we don't actually have a right.
The authority,
the authority
that's
to
right.
Have that.
yeah,
You,
Like I
you're gonna
said.
be able to make a crowd of people understand that to the point that they would come up with. They would come up with the same answer as our recommendations, like, I think. I mean, because this all started out as, you know, people wanted it there,
yeah,
and so I think. Leaving it open-ended. Is just gonna be a big argument.
so in the effort to take a run at a second option. I think the city administrator has. I think he probably captures this pretty well, so, option 2 would be. Any fee, charge, or, well, I want to take fees out.
No, it should be fees.
Well, maybe it could be,
Because
okay,
if I can.
yeah, go
Before you
ahead.
start forming your thought, because the fire and EMS would have, that fee would have not come to the citizens had it not been for that clause. in that
Correct.
charter.
That is
So
correct,
that is one that the citizens got to vote
Correct.
on and approve,
correct,
and will get to vote on again
correct,
in this fall.
correct.
So I would say fees beyond. New fees beyond. Rates, and I don't know, beyond just.
Yeah.
I don't know how you word it to not include rates or those debt services, but
Debt
it's kind of.
service, debt service, beyond rates and debt
Yeah, I
service.
mean, really, we're talking about taxes and EMS fee. That's about it. And how you word.
That's okay, that's where, again, to take a run at this. In my mind, option 2 should refer to the EMS fee and taxes.
Or other similar.
Those are
fees.
subject to voter approval, the rest is council.
Yeah, but how do you,
How do you?
how do you
Well,
define an EMS?
maybe the city attorney would have a thought on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always
We're
fun to
worried
punt
about
the
that
city
for
attorney.
good legal
He's
work.
really happy about us.
I'm sure he is, but,
His emails slowly get less and less more formal.
yeah, well, you know.
So we're gonna ask him about wording.
That's one idea, you know, again, we're all brainstorming here,
So
but
I am
Make
good,
it we're going for.
I am good with setting number 4 aside until we hear back from the attorney.
okay,
How's that with everybody?
sounds good.
Okay.
I feel like
On that
we reached
question.
It'll, on that
consensus.
question, it'll bounce around in there for all of us. for a
Sure, we
while.
can think about it a little bit more.
Attorney.
Yeah.
I definitely heard some points that I hadn't considered before, which I'm really happy
Yeah,
about,
same
so,
here.
yeah, perfect.
Because in honesty, I would like to see the fire and EMS just keep coming back for the citizens to vote on, so I mean, you know, things like that should come back to the citizens.
It's really hard for citizens, I mean, before I started coming to council meetings and stuff. And obviously, I didn't put it as a priority, but I felt like I didn't have a voice in the city and, you know, obviously, yeah. Come to city council meeting and you can speak up, but as far as, you know, stopping or preventing or starting anything, I wasn't. Big scary city hall, right?
Right.
And so when you keep people engaged, even if it is just voting on fire and EMS, they feel like they're having a voice and a say.
Participation.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Agree.
Yeah, for us, 2 cents on that one.
Okay, so heading up,
We can jump back to section 12, number 3, about the 2 elected positions.
please.
That's in the email I handed out. So what the attorney said, it is rather straightforward. It does not allow more than 1 elected public office. I think that is a little bit harsh. What if the county DA lived in Cascade Locks and wanted to serve on council? I think we could tweak that a bit and say that no councilor shall serve in more than 1 elected office located in the city of Cascade Locks.
Oh, that's great, that sounds good.
That does sound good.
Yeah.
So that means that a city official that is on council cannot run for board,
Correct.
is that right?
That's the only
That's the
other
thing.
elected position located in the city of Cascade Locks.
that would be great. That sounds great.
Unless I'm missing something, but.
Okay, so-
This one just says elected office located in the city of Cascade Locks.
Maybe within the boundaries.
Yeah, you can add something like that, yeah.
Well, if you're gonna put within the boundaries, okay.
I mean, it says.
In
located
Cascade
in-
Locks, somewhere Cascade Locks is defined as the boundary
Yeah,
of blah,
it's
blah,
in the
blah.
charter.
I think that's got it.
Oh, yeah, you're right, yeah.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you for taking that on, because I was,
That's a great point.
it's a frustration.
This.
And that goes in which section?
That goes in
12. Right.
Okay.
No. 12, section 12, subsection 3. No councilor shall serve in more than 1 public elected
Yes,
office.
yes, correct, yes.
And we are eventually moving that entire section to chapters.
Mm.
Mhm,
When-
Right.
when we get to organize it.
correct.
Okay. The next item was section 38 about contracts, if I remember right.
Yeah.
And that is governed by state statute, and there's no need for it.
Okay, then. We get rid of it.
Yep.
I say delete it.
Yeah.
Everybody else agree?
All in favor?
Problem.
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Okay, wait a second, what you just did there.
We are deleting,
Okay, but there's no voting if there's no motion. I'm just
Oh, sorry.
saying. You can say consensus, that's fine, but if you're
Okay,
saying,
because we're taking a consensus.
if you're saying
Consensus.
yay or nay,
This
there's
is
gotta be
my
a
first
motion.
time being a chair, so please keep
it's
me.
consensus, okay?
You're on
Consensus,
I just wanna make sure I'm recording it properly.
yeah, it's a consensus.
Easy peasy. So we're on 39 now?
39.
Okay,
We are not doing section 35.
We should do section.
My notice is to research it, or if I know, we need to know the history, right? You wanna know.
Yeah, but I'm
why.
satisfied. I feel like unless anyone else objects, I've talked to enough people about it. I think that this was added out of concern for the city, not offering people the chance to buy back properties foreclosed. I'm fine with it, the way that it's worded.
Cause it's pretty similar to everybody else's.
It's more detailed, but I think it's more detailed for a reason. And I don't see that Jordan, do you see this as having any problem for the city financially, creating problems? Okay, then I'm fine with letting it stay.
No, it still gives the city the right to condemn anything that is a public hazard.
okay, but would it give us the right to condemn something that's gonna serve a public purpose?
Give an example.
Like building a freeway, so you have to take someone's house out.
Exactly. Now, this, we wouldn't do
That would be the
that,
city.
but,
Example, like when they wanted to build a tram, didn't they wanna build a tram?
yeah,
Yeah, and then, I mean, if there was property up there that somebody owned and that sort of.
right, that's when you use condemnation, there's a greater public good being
Yes.
served. And so, it forces the entity to pay market value They condemn sounds like such a horrible word, but they're getting market value. They just don't have an option. They have to take that appraisal process as value. And they have to move in service to the greater public good.
Now, in a situation like that, a project like the tram, would that have to go before the voters to be approved?
No,
If it involved reconveyance of property to the city for the project?
because the city wasn't
Not
involved, it was
necessarily,
the
no.
port.
Yeah.
It wasn't the city, it was the port.
How can the port force people?
The port wanted to put a tramway to go up to Ruckle, whatever. And the port wanted to do that. Well, it didn't happen, and that's why they built the stern wheel.
Okay, I'm just gonna say, I don't know how the port could use condemnation for the public.
That, in
That would
terms
have
of the city, it would be, need to install a waterway or a road for a
Yeah.
safety reason, or whatever it is, so we can get out of Cascade Locks. Something. But there would
Yeah,
also be, it would turn into a legal battle no matter what argument you use, so.
Right.
But right now, does this language say we can condemn for a project that serves the public interest?
So there's declared by resolution.
That says it has to state the uses to which it's gonna be devoted.
So it says it can condemn it, it has to be devoted, but it cannot be given to another private entity. So the city can condemn it and take ownership of it, but cannot give it to another private entity, if I'm reading that correctly.
That's correct.
So we couldn't condemn it to build an event center and then sell the event center to some company,
Right. Before you built your event center.
or after.
Yeah.
You have to give the original owner right of first issue.
All right, but, go ahead.
So do we have a resolution on condemnation? Or do you make a resolution when you do
You make a
condemnation?
Yeah, resolution, yeah.
Okay.
All right, well, let me throw another what if out there. Let's say, we wanted to condemn some property to build some public housing.
Mhm.
And then we turned over that housing to a nonprofit who's running the housing thing, and now they own the land, they pay the property taxes, blah, blah, blah. Would this prevent that?
I think it depends on your definition of private party. Are we talking a private citizen or a non-profit
Like a nonprofit.
corporation?
Well, it says without offering the original owner or the heirs of the original owner the right to purchase. So if you've done that
True, yeah.
and they didn't want it, you can do whatever you
I
want.
want with it, yeah.
I mean, that's how I would interpret it.
Does the city attorney have an opinion on this?
I have not asked him.
I would like to get his take to see.
I don't know why we would condemn something and then turn right around and sell it back to the person we just condemned it.
Yeah,
That's either,
that's
it doesn't mean
strange.
that someone somewhere, well, we wouldn't do it.
Well, it speaks to this issue of if the port wanted to build a tramway and properties had to be condemned, the only entity with the power to condemn the property is the city. And then they could sell it to the port. This prevented that from happening.
Yeah, I would like to know what pitfalls could emerge sometime in the future if this language stays in there, according to the city attorney.
And this was passed as part of that same.
That's
Exactly.
passed as part of the same ballot, yeah.
Can we somewhere find the verbiage of that ballot? Gotta be somewhere.
I think this is it, it's in your charter.
Is it the exact verbiage?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
And you're concerned specific to condemnation for a greater civic.
yeah, public interest, that's when this happens generally.
Yeah.
And, I mean,
Well,
cities are there to serve the public good, and there's a great public interest that's needed in a city. I don't know if it's gonna overly hamstring us from,
Yeah, there
From
are,
delivering
there are
on it, you
several
know?
properties that are probably beyond repair that are just sitting there.
Mhm.
That at this moment aren't public health hazards yet. Can the city come in and condemn it just to get the people off of that property and move economic development forward?
Right.
Can the city do that?
Yeah, so that's a great example of, that's what I want to ask the attorney, given what this states in the charter, is that a legal action that the city could take per our charter?
Probably 5 or 6 properties we could do that.
I
If
hear
we
you.
have the money.
Yeah, I hear you, but again, part of the reason we do these charter reviews is to look at the authority provided by the city and ensure that we're set up for future work and governance, down the road. So I don't, again, this is kind of technical for me, so that's why I'd like the city attorney to give us some perspective on it.
And then this actually relates to a conversation I had outside of this committee, but who determines whether or not a building constitutes a danger to the health or safety of the community? Is that the county inspector?
Could be building inspector, health inspector. I don't know if fire chief has any power.
Are
don't
these
believe he has.
city officials or county officials?
County.
Probably county, if it,
We don't
you know,
have
if the
to.
building is an imminent threat of collapse, then we can condemn the thing.
Mhm.
Right, but
Or, you know, it's got sewage leaks and things like that, probably that county health inspector or health office would do it. So we'd have to have support in the process, we couldn't do it ourselves.
okay,
Does that answer your question?
it does. I just had people ask how you would get, can the city force a building to undergo an inspection? That there are concerns about, say, raw sewage leaking out into the water.
You know, yeah, if
This
you,
has nothing to do
yeah,
with committee.
raw sewage or if a support beam obviously looks rotten, you could probably request the building inspector to come look at
Or homeowners overtaking a business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We're asking them, I'll just tell them to call the county. And make a report about the report. Okay. Sorry.
it. So, yeah, I will follow up, I'll kind of, give the attorney kind of that verbiage about limitations of the power. Can we do it for economic development, public safety, whatever,
Public interest, yes,
public interest, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
You want to hear what ORS says about it?
Yeah.
Authority to acquire land for certain purposes, ORS 226.320. Whenever the municipal authority is determined by ordinance to do so, the city may purchase, acquire, take, use, or enter upon and appropriate land and property within or without its corporate limits for the purposes of: 1, public squares, parks, memorial monuments or buildings, pioneer memorials, pioneer museums, memorials and monuments to United States war veterans, sites or buildings for meeting places such as war veterans, auto campgrounds, playgrounds, or comfort stations. 2, enlarging any public square, park, auto campground, playground, or comfort station.
We could condemn the old fire station and expand Overlook Park.
Yeah, it's always politically controversial.
Yeah.
Yes. You can do it, but again, I don't know how well the public would
Right.
absorb it. That could cause someone to get elected out of
Oh,
office,
yeah.
you know? So, you have to, there has to be this kind of, this bulgy public interest, it's
Exactly,
like,
it's gotta
God,
be.
the public really wants the city to take charge, versus some council member has a wild hair and goes, oh, I wanna do this, and then it's like, the public's going, what the hell's that about, So you know it when you see it, it, sometimes it's very clear that the city needs to step in.
Okay.
But again, I wanted to have the authority should that occasion arise, so.
We just say the massive monument to Tom Brown. Are we ready to move on to 39?
I think we're on the last page now.
What about special assessments, number 37?
Can we go over that?
No, I don't have anything on it.
I have 36, we went to 38.
Oh, okay.
So we did improvements?
We did improvements, we
Okay.
left it.
Yeah.
I have a question. So some of these that, like the condemnation, they have ORSs for them. And I think for the improvements, there was another ORS. Can we just put those as the charter or, I mean? That would,
You could, but if it's in the ORS, it doesn't need to be a chart.
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
So it's just 37 on page 8.
Mm-hmm. So does the model talk about special assessments
Okay.
similar to that
I
language?
didn't see it in the model.
Special assessments are covered by ordinance.
Yeah, section 10.2.
Oh,
Section what?
10.2.
In the model charter.
Yeah, page.
There it
14.
is. Yeah, okay, that looks very similar to what we have.
Yeah.
Okay, so looks good to me,
I like it.
yeah.
All in favor?
Consensus.
consensus.
Consensus,
We didn't have a motion.
all in consensus, is that what I said?
No, you just say,
Is
do I
there-
have a
is there-
Do
consensus?
I have a consensus? Thank
Do we
you.
have a consensus?
I,
And you just look at us and.
we have to
thumbs up.
confirm that, it's only fair.
Probably in front of section 39.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the model says, but
It does not mention anything about liens.
It has continuation of ordinances, repeal. And
Well-
final effect.
this authority is very important in my assessment regarding utility operations. But it might already be covered in the ORS. I feel like there's quite a bit of language that says what authority utilities have to set liens. And it wouldn't surprise me if that's covered. So that would be my request. Jordan,
Check the RS.
yes, see if it's already covered. That's my comment. I don't know if the other three are.
I couldn't find anything in the LOC model.
Liens against real property.
I wonder if that's because it has to do with utility charges and where the ones. There's.
Maybe, I
Utility.
mean. A lot of cities have utilities, but not all of them,
No,
so,
not all of them do.
you know. But again, just to. Put a bow on this thing. It very much happens where someone will run up a huge utility bill and just leave.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, they do that.
and then we have no way to collect that, so we put it as a lien on the property. And when it exchanges hands, we finally get our money, you know,
Right.
so it is it's a real tool. To keep our utilities whole, you know,
But the only way that works is if it's the property owner in the house with the utility bill, not.
That's correct.
With the tenant.
yeah, I know. There's actually, you can do something on the tenant, we discovered in Gresham, by the way.
Yeah, we were told what we could do and we haven't done it yet.
Okay,
Just needs to be put on our application. That's simple.
exactly, yeah. It's all work.
So we're sticking with section 9. 39.
Do you want to?
I just want to see if it's already.
Yeah.
If it's not, I would like to keep it here.
Right,
If it is, then I recommend we remove it.
I'm good with that.
yeah.
Section 40.
Now, it's referring state law, but doesn't cite the state law.
But it's pretty much, it's slightly different than the one in the model charter. It's longer. It doesn't have the thing about, the model charter doesn't have the official or employee sense. in the middle.
Also does refer to
Yeah.
Bancroft bonds,
Yeah,
and that's in the ORS, but that's not.
So,
I'm fine with number section 40.
so let me ask this question. It says the city's indebtedness may not exceed the limit imposed by state law.
Mhm.
Then it says, any city official or employee who creates or officially approves indebtedness in excess of the limitation is jointly and severally liable for the excess. So doesn't that like, if we follow the first sentence, how could the second sentence ever happen? Is that what that's referring to?
I'm assuming that's just additional language pulled from the ORS, added on, I could be wrong.
Or from an older version of charters, the Hood River Charter, for example, which is where we borrowed from.
Yeah, it's kind of a strange sentence. I would love to hear the attorney see if he has any issue on that.
You're just making our attorney.
I'm not, this is gonna take like five. He'll put a smile on his face and say, oh, that's an easy one.
Yeah.
Okay, so that question, that middle sentence.
That middle sentence
Mm-hmm.
seems a little strange. Otherwise, looks good to me.
Yeah, it's the same as in the model letter.
So what does jointly and severally mean? Because jointly means together and severally means
So if an
individually.
individual of council did that, they could be liable. But if the whole council did it,
Okay,
it would be jointly.
Right,
That's the way I take it.
they agree to go into debt as a group
Mhm.
above the limitation. They're
is
all,
that city official or employee are singular?
Yeah, it could be for the council, or it could be one employee, yeah.
Wait for the attorney on that, section 41.
is the same as
It's
it
the
is in
same
the
as
model.
the model.
Are we happy with it?
Looks good to me.
Yep.
Check.
Section 42.
It's the same.
Yes,
Yeah.
right,
Mm-hmm.
as it should be.
And
it.
43,
Charter shall
that
take
one
effect.
will get changed.
Right.
Yeah, that will get
To be
changed.
determined.
Next day,
Following
whatever
the,
the law.
following the approval of the charter by election.
The November 6th,
Okay,
November 6th.
day after the election, right? When I guess when it's certified or whatever.
16 years. Wow.
yeah.
We've got 10 minutes. I think we got it all.
We went through it all except for the attorney's response to the
Yeah.
last couple.
Right, and yeah,
Yes.
so
You guys want, I'll put these questions out to the attorney. I think the next step is we did a lot of moving around.
yeah,
Does this committee want to do that themselves or have staff reorganize it and present it for review?
That's what I want.
that's what I want.
You don't want to do it.
I don't wanna do it, I understand.
Sort of having this as.
You guys are capable of doing that in a nice logical manner, so let's power on.
Perfect.
Okay, but then we'll see the kind of the updated version.
Yeah, I'll keep this red line version.
Yeah.
I'll start a whole new document with a clean version for you guys to see.
That'd be
Thank
great.
you. Okay,
So the three things that we're still looking for clarification on from the city attorney under 32.4, the language for alternate recommendations.
Yeah.
35, which is about public interest.
yes, on the condemnation,
And then
and
40,
then that middle sentence on,
40.
debt limit.
And then section 39 is check the ORS.
Check the ORS. I don't think you require the attorney for that.
No, it doesn't.
When is our next meeting? Do we schedule?
We haven't scheduled the next meeting yet.
When do we want our next meeting? When is it available?
Well, it's
Yeah,
also, is when can Jordan get that done?
When can we meet?
Let me take a look.
And I'm making a presentation at the next city council meeting, is that right?
Yes, you're gonna have to,
That's the
that's the meeting on the 27th was canceled. We have to do an update to council
Okay.
at the next, on the 13th. We can do, what is today? No, Wednesday's gonna take turn around.
There's always short meetings that are an option, if that opens up this room for anything, it doesn't have to be a 2-hour block. I don't know if that's cool.
Yeah, I don't think it requires 2 hours.
We're just looking at those three now.
What about Monday the 6th? Let me double check my calendar.
Looks good to me, works for my team.
Tourism's meeting that day, never mind,
What, that day, that night?
6 P M.
Oh.
Do they meet in here, Jordan?
They do, yeah.
Are they
I
from
can see
6?
Zoom because of the city committee.
What time do they end?
City committee.
Ish, whenever they're done.
Yeah, whenever they're
What
done.
time are they done?
They go pretty long, they've been going 2.5 hours. They're very talkative. Bradford Island is in here the next night, with a budget meeting on the 8th. Possibly a planning commission on the 9th, I don't know, Brad, no. The next time this room is open. Be the 9th,
9th works for me.
Thursday the 9th.
I'm good on the 9th.
I'm good on the night.
Oh, that's good, I have a meeting every hour.
That's how I was this week. I had something I have to work every day this week.
Okay, till the 9th?
The 9th,
Marion, does that work for you?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll send out an email reminder.
Okay.
And that's it, sir.
Yep, 6 o'clock.
If we can get a copy of the sort of new charter before then, that would be.
Yes, I'll put it in the packet.
That'd be great.
Yep, that gives me time to put it in a packet, yeah.
6 P.M.
You may not get a week before, but you get it a couple days before.
Yeah.
I wanted a week before, please.
I need a week and a half.
So I will present the budget, I'll give you your updated charter on the same day, how about that?
I need to just.
Same time, 6 P.M.
Same time, 6 p.m.
More time, 6 PM.
We can probably plan for it being a short meeting.
I think it will be short. We just have to go over what you've given us.
Yeah, I'll do my best to make it coherent.
Can we also ask you to look for a good time for a town
I was
hall
gonna say,
meeting?
if we're gonna talk about town hall now or at the next meeting.
Well, if
Well, we
could
need to
come up with
look
some
and
dates.
see if we can get some dates.
Yeah.
So you got, are we thinking weekend, are we?
No, not a weekend.
Weeknight then?
Weeknight.
Why not a weekend?
Cause it's the weekend.
It's a weekend. I don't know.
Weekend.
I like a weekend, I feel like we get more participation.
That's my
Okay,
thought.
it's your,
I don't. think
But
we
it's
do,
also
but
coming
like in
into
the
the sunny
day.
season, if
Like
it's
a
a
Saturday
Saturday,
People aren't wanting to do anything.
are gonna be gone, they're gonna be out for the weekend camping.
That is true, yeah.
Could you just look and see what's available? Maybe we can pick back. Weekdays and weekends.
where do we wanna do it?
I'd assume in this room,
Is that big enough?
No, I think you should do it in jam. You're not gonna be,
I don't know, I have no idea what kind
you're
of.
not gonna be able
crowd
to
it
hold
is.
people here.
I have no idea.
Well, the minute it gets out, it's regarding the charter, I would say that it's.
Well, and if we had to do Zoom, we gotta figure that out too.
Right.
The town halls have to be?
For a town hall?
It's a city meeting.
Well, it's not really a meeting, it's like we did with the strategic plan in here, it's kind of come as you want, look at the things, ask
Oh, you're not
questions.
gonna have that.
It's not a structured meeting.
Facilitator or-
It would be really nice to make it.
Bernard's
available
the
to people that can't
facilitator.
make it though.
Yeah, I would assume it'd be structured the same as we did the strategic plan, it'd be about a 3-hour block. You come in, look at the charter, ask questions of the committee. I mean, unless you guys want it in a more structured format.
And we haven't really had a whole lot of structure up until now, so I don't think.
But town hall meetings
I
can
think
get
it's
pretty crazy.
Yeah, the problem is there's so many little changes. I don't wanna go line by line
No.
with this thing, you know? I kinda am leaning towards what you just proposed. We have the charter copies there.
And we can be available all the
Yeah,
committee
we can
members.
be one.
If you have questions,
Yes,
you know, then we'll
exactly.
all be happy to.
And give I'd love to have it posted on our website, saying, hey, a week or so before, take a look at what the committee has put together. And, come to the town hall with your questions.
Yeah, give
And
people
our
a chance to look it over ahead of time.
Yeah,
Our goal is to update it, to bring it more in line with the model charter and to make it a document that's more responsive to the city's.
there you go. Well said. Perfect.
Tiffany?
So at the next meeting, when you get the red line and the black line, is that when you guys are gonna take your vote to?
I think, well, are we gonna,
To approve your changes?
so is the town hall going before or after that?
Going after that, we have to make sure us as a committee agree with everything in that charter.
Okay,
So we wanna get feedback from
right,
And then
our
we
fellow
take it,
citizens.
then we take it to the citizens.
but we're doing all of that before we submit it to council.
Yes.
Correct.
Town hall
There would be a
before-
consensus of a clean version, that's what would be presented to the town hall. We
Yeah.
get feedback from the town hall, do one final meeting to tweak it, and then present it to council.
Yeah, that would be perfect.
It's gonna require all four of you to be for it,
Yes,
Yep.
because you are the.
we're the majority, we're
In
in,
reform, we're in.
because we have no other members.
Mayor said she was gonna look at applications again, but there is no guarantee of turning on another meeting.
And so your meeting is gonna be before the next council meeting.
They did talk about doing a special meeting, just to appoint somebody.
And you did not hear a big suck out here going in the London station.
Okay, I'll check out dates, I mean, I guess, weekend or weekday, I guess that's what I need to know.
I like weekend.
I want weekend too.
Doesn't matter to me.
Alright,
I'm
weekend
up
is.
for anything.
Okay.
Just need to know in advance, so I'll my friend come watch the campground.
What, you know.
No, they're
We got
not.
another adjournment yet. What are you doing?
Because we're done.
Oh, that's what
I put it up during the meeting.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye. What a committee.
Wonderful, robust. debate.
We can
Right.
discuss weekend.